Good morning. Welcome to Blue Mountain Community Church. Today, I am your host, along with my wonderful co-host over here. Introduce yourself for us.
I'm Jennifer Hazen.
And I'm Nate Bowling, and I'm the youth pastor here. And if I haven't met you, I would love to meet you. We got a lot of things happening in the life of the church. Lots of things going on. Jennifer, why don't you start us off with some of this fun activities that are going on?
All right. Well, first I have a question. Nate, do you like barbecue?
I do like barbecues.
Okay.
I enjoy barbecues a lot.
That's great, because you know what? Tonight's the backyard bash.
Ooh.
We're going to be grilling up some delicious food. We'll have vegetarian options for those of you who are not carnivores like myself. It's tonight at 5 p.m. We're going to have some games, and we're going to have some good food, fellowship, some good laughs. So
That works for me.
It'll be a good time.
I'm okay with that.
So, but straight from the backyard bash to sports camp coming up in just a few short weeks. Those of you who don't know what sports camp is, it's this awesome opportunity that our church has for the kids of this community to come in, do some sports activities, come closer to Christ, come together, have a great time. But it's a lot of work, and we still need volunteers. We still need donations. There is a meeting today after second service, so that's around 11:30. If you have any questions, you can ask either Sarah Mahan, our children's minister, or Lexi Pryor. There's also a huge display board out by the children's wing where there's all kinds of things listed that we need for sports camp to be successful this year.
Sports camp is a huge, huge thing here. Hundreds of kids show up. We need your help. That's as simple as we can put it. We also have on the 28th of this month, we have the annual business meeting, which kind of goes over the budgets and everything that's business related to this side of the church. That will be happening on the 28th at 11:30 a.m. So that will be, is that in between services? That's after the second service. So after the second service, you will be able to join in that meeting. If you aren't able to be here, we have absentee ballots as well. So you can look forward to seeing more about that.
Yeah. Don't forget, there's one more thing.
Oh, what is that?
Newcomers lunch next week.
Oh my gosh.
So next week we have our newcomers lunch after second service. It's going to be delicious. And I know this because I'm cooking chicken pozole. So newcomers lunch is always a great time to get to know the staff here and to kind of get an introduction to who we are as a church. I can say that for my family, when we first moved here to Walla Walla, we enjoyed the newcomers lunch so much that we may have come 3 times.
Oh, hey, that's okay. More the merrier. Today is also something that's very special to myself. It is Grad Sunday. So we're in that season where grads are starting to graduate from high school, and today is the day where we're honoring them. During second service, we're going to be bringing them up, and we're going to pray a prayer of blessing over them. But first service, you guys still get the great video, so check this out.
I think my favorite thing about high school, surprisingly to me, is all the awkward moments, all the difficult lessons that are learned in high school. I don't really have to explain, any adult would understand. But I didn't enjoy them at the time, but looking back, I learned a lot through high school. And
I think my favorite thing about high school is I was able to find myself.
Well, my favorite thing about high school was just kind of things becoming a lot more open for me, where I was able to do pretty much anything that I wanted with a lot less supervision.
My favorite thing was probably the ability to have flexible hours since I was homeschooled.
It always felt more free than other times in my life.
My favorite part of high school has definitely been playing basketball for the school. I love having the student section there cheering you on.
my favorite teacher is actually my mother. For the first 2 years of high school, I was half at Waha and half homeschooled. and my mother did an amazing job.
So my favorite teachers include my sophomore year English teacher. Her name is Mrs. Wagner. I love that woman so much. Another favorite is Kristen Hessler. Love that woman. She's my drama teacher and my director. Last favorite is Mrs. Hatch, as we call her Ocho.
I think I'll have to go with Colonel Bioloser for ROTC, just because he was so awesome. Unfortunately, he was only there for 2 years.
I was homeschooled, so I would probably have to say my mom.
My favorite teacher was Sergeant Smith, my criminal justice teacher.
My favorite teacher, I'd say probably Mr. Minyagi. We always called him Mags, and he was probably my favorite teacher. He was my math teacher last year.
My favorite memory from high school, I think, would actually be going to Michigan to play in the IYC band.
My first musical, and Susan Cole was coming to a close.
Where on the last day of the program, every single time, they have this dance, on the base platform in the Capitol building over there in Olympia. And at first I was like, okay, I don't want to do this. And so I was just hanging out and playing games and just chatting with some other people. And then I got dragged out there and
I think my favorite memory wasn't really in school, but it was a summer trip I took last year, going to Wyoming and getting to see family.
Pretty much the entirety of my first C-Tech year.
I really enjoyed playing in Buff Puff. It was our junior-senior rivalry for men's volleyball.
So I'm actually graduating with my diploma and an associate's degree. So I'm not sure what I want to do next right away. I think I'm going to take a little bit of time and figure out what I would want to continue college for.
Late August, I'm moving to LA to go to school, and I'm gonna be there for 4 years.
So I've been accepted to go to the University of Washington for the College of Engineering, just general engineering for now. I'm sure that I'll find something when I'm there that I really, really enjoy and want to specialize in.
I am planning on attending college in Tri-Cities. I don't have a college picked out yet, but I want to major in special education teaching.
I'm planning on going to Walla Walla Community College and getting my 4-year criminal justice degree.
Next year I will be attending Whitworth University, and I will be playing basketball there and majoring in business management.
Who could I say? Could I say Jim or JD? I should say JD because he'll be active on. Is this going on Instagram?
My mom. I know she's not a pastor.
Probably Jim.
Gosh, that's not what I was.
Oh, I don't know. Of course it's you.
Nate, I got you.
That's what I like.
You're right there.
That's what I like to hear.
All right, good morning, guys. Congrats, grads. Would you stand with us? We're going to start playing through a couple songs this morning, and I don't know about you guys, but man, we're feeling a little sleepy this morning. I don't know what your week's been like, but let's just gather together. Let's sing through some songs, and let's raise our voices together. So let's sing. Is the battle, God, you see thy victory. When all I see is a mountain, you see a mountain move. And as I walk through the shadow, God, your love surrounds me. There's nothing to fear now, for I am safe with you. Come on, let's lift it up. So when I'll fight on my knees, with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And every fear I'll lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And if you are for me, oh, who be against me? For Jesus, there's nothing impossible for you. No. When all I see are the ashes, God, you see the beauty. Thank you, God. When all I see is the cross, oh God, you see the empty tomb. So when I'll fight on my knees with my head lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And every fear I'll lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. An almighty fortress, God, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. An almighty fortress, God, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. So when I fight on my knees and with my head lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Every fear I'll lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Yeah. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Oh. Come on the clouds and sing this out. He's coming on the clouds, and kings and kingdoms will bow down. And every chain will break as broken hearts declare his praise. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. And every stop the Lord Almighty? No one. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Oh, 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 who can stop the Lord? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before him. Every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. God, you are here. You're working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. And you are here, yes you are, bending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every life. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. Yeah, I worship you. God, you are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, God, you are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise that is to you, Lord, Lord. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper. My God, that is who you are. Oh, and that is who you are. Oh, and that is who you are. And that is who you are. And that is who you are. Oh, and that is who you are, Lord. And that is who you are. And that is who you are. And that is who you are. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 God, thank you for just the sense of peace right now. When we sing to you, when we open up our hearts, when we tune out what's going on right now in this world and focus on you, all of our attention and energy is focused on you, God. You bring peace and healing to our hearts. It's almost as if we are made to worship you, God. Thank you for that gift. Thank you for this way that we're able to worship you and sing out praise to you. God, thank you for this morning. We pray this all in your name. Amen.
Good morning. It's good to be able to share a little bit this morning, and as we get rolling into this moment that I get to share with you, I want to welcome those of you who are watching online and those of you who are watching from Ontario at Origins Faith Community, and of course those of you who are in the room. It's good to see you on this cool summer day, right? Let's talk about it. So I've never really done any trapping. Some people trap for fur, and they catch animals and then they can sell the furs. Some people trap to do research on various animals, and sometimes you'll find somebody like up in the mountains here. They'll trap problem bears and move them to a different location. Sometimes you can trap guppies, little fish, and use them as bait. But that's not me. It's not anything I've ever really done. I mean, there was the time at our church in Missouri when we had a lot of spiders that just were everywhere. And so they set out all of these sticky traps. I don't know if you've ever seen those sticky. It's like a sheet, and it has glue on it. And if something comes crawling across, it just gets stuck on the glue. And so we had these spiders, this spider problem, and there was a spider trap underneath the copy machine. And the secretary one day screamed and said, "There's something under the copy machine." And I went out and looked under the copy machine. Sure enough, we had caught something, but it wasn't a spider. It was a snake. It was a snake that had crawled under the copy machine. How did it get in the building, and what was it doing? And it was stuck on the spider trap. And you can't get a snake off. Oh, anyway, that's a different story. And then there was the time that my daughter had a hamster named Brownie. And we were having all of this trouble. This is also in Missouri, and she was young. And we were having all this trouble with chipmunks that kept getting into our garage. And so I thought, I'm going to catch those chipmunks, and I got a big rat trap. And a rat trap, it looks like a mouse trap, but it's just giant. And so I set this rat trap in our garage to catch the chipmunks. But Brownie got out of his cage one night. Oh, come on, listen to the story. So Brownie got out of his cage one night, and we couldn't find him. A day went by, and another day went by, and Leslie went down to get into our van and go somewhere, and sure enough, she says, "I found Brownie. May he rest in peace." Today, I want us to examine three traps and one hill. 3 traps and 1 hill. So let's talk about that. We're in a question series, and one of the questions that was submitted, it's a great question. And the funny thing about a question series is I really never know what questions are going to come in and I'm going to address. But this question came in, and it's a question I feel like I've kind of talked a little bit about, but I think we're going to do just a little bit deeper dive, and we're not going to go anywhere that you expect us to go with this question. But we're going to jump into it anyway. The question is this: why is it that whenever the subject of accepting the authority of the government is taught, it's always taught with the example of Jesus saying, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar," and never the example of Daniel defying the king's edict? So the question, I think, is about, do we obey the government or do we defy the government? I think that's the basic question that this person is asking. And it's a great question. And the reason it's a great question is because Christianity, the church, always exists in a culture, and the culture always has some kind of government. It doesn't matter if it's 100 years ago or 100 years from now. The church will always have to exist within a government. Now, we, of course, we're in the United States of America, and our government, we have a constitution, we have a legal system, we have basically, that's our scenario. But there are other places where the scenario is much different than ours. The reason it's such an important question is because the way we navigate that, do we defy, do we obey, it impacts the way we do business. It impacts the way that we are known in our community, our witness in our communities. It's just an important question. It's a heavy question, and it's not an easy question. Now, sometimes the government makes rules that totally make sense, right? Like, well, I'll get to one. Hang on a second. For real, okay. School zones, right? 20 miles an hour. That makes sense. Why not? I mean, who wants to go 80 miles per hour through a school zone? It's dangerous. You could hit somebody. It's terrible. It's a great law. But then there's other laws that aren't so great. There's some laws that are repressive, meant to silence. And whether it's in this culture or other cultures, other countries, I mean, we're talking a worldwide thing. But now, zoom in on us. We have talked about here at Blue Mountain many, many times how we are living this faith as improv. In fact, I've done 2 series in my time here at Blue Mountain, and we talked about how we are living our faith as improv. And improv is a type of acting in which you are given a role to play. You're a police officer, you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're a fireman, chief, whatever. Anyway, you're a person, and here's your role that you play. And then you're given a scenario. Here's the scenario you find yourself in, but you're not given a script. You have to make up the script. You have to be authentic to the role that you've been handed in the scenario, and you're supposed to act out the way forward in that scenario. And so we, as Christ followers, here you are, and you've been placed in 2021. Here you are, in Walla Walla, Washington, in Ontario, Oregon. And you're supposed to live out life as a Christ follower in that context, with all of the stuff going on in the middle. What we know is a few things. We know that we know what Christ followers have done before us because we have this written down in the Scripture. So we know what the Bible has recorded Christ followers have done before us. We know what Christ followers have done before us. We have that example. We also have the example of the Old Testament, what the people of God did up until certain times. And then, beyond that, we have the gentle nudgings and leadings and whispers of the Spirit of God today to guide us forward, to help us navigate the time that we live in. So, my assumption is that this question that's been asked is really about kind of the current political scenario that we've just kind of come through. And we're emerging on the other side of it finally. And the question is, do we defy or do we submit? And when? How do we know when? And here's the thing. We would love for this to be a black and white issue. We would love for it to just say, you do this and you do that. and yet, it's not that easy. It's a scenario where sometimes there's different responses. Sometimes you have to do one thing, and another time you have to do another thing. And we find ourselves in this place where we have to navigate it. So first, let's take a glimpse at the passage that the person asked about in the question. And that's the passage found in the book of Daniel, chapter 6. Daniel is a young Jewish leader. And he's been taken captive, and now he's been placed in a place of authority. He's an advisor to the king, King Darius. And he's excelling in what he's doing, and he's so good at it that King Darius is going to put him in charge of all of the other wise men. And they hate him because he is going to have the power and the prestige and the authority over top of them. And so what they want to do is find a way to stop him. So now we pick up in our text, and we're in Daniel chapter 6, verse 6. Daniel 6, verse 6. So these administrators and satraps went as a group to the king and said, "May King Darius live forever." The royal administrators, prefects, satraps, advisors, and governors have all agreed that the king should issue an edict and enforce the decree that anyone who prays to any god or human being during the next 30 days, except you, your majesty, shall be thrown into the lion's den. Now, your majesty, issue the decree and put it in writing so that it cannot be altered, in accordance with the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed. So Darius put the decree in writing. Now, when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God, just as he had done before. Then these men went as a group and found Daniel praying and asking God for help. So they went to the king and spoke to him about his royal decree. "Did you not publish a decree that during the next 30 days, anyone who prays to any god or human being except you, your majesty, would be thrown into the lion's den?" The king answered, "The decree stands in accordance with the law of the Medes and the Persians, which cannot be altered or repealed." Then they said to the king, "Daniel, who is one of the exiles from Judah, pays no attention to you, your majesty, or to the decree you put in writing. He still prays 3 times a day." When the king heard this, he was greatly distressed. He was determined to rescue Daniel and made every effort until sundown to save him. First, This is a trap that these royal administrators have laid, and they've laid this trap to catch Daniel because they know that he is going to pray, and they know his pattern, and so they're going to catch him in the trap. And they're not just trying to get him fired. They're not just trying to catch him and have him canceled. They're trying to catch him and have him killed because they know the way they've written the law that he'll be thrown into the lion's den and eaten by lions. Now, politicians do this kind of thing all the time, right? I mean, they lay traps for one another. If I can get my opponent to say the wrong thing, then I can use their words against them. I mean, politicians do this. But in this case, he's not supposed to pray to any other god except praying to King Darius for 30 days. But not only did they catch Daniel, they caught the king as well. Now, the funny thing about a trap is this. Sometimes you lay out a trap and you think you're going to catch one thing and you catch something else. You think you're going to catch a spider, but you catch a snake. You think you're going to catch a chipmunk and you catch Brownie the hamster. May Brownie rest in peace. Sometimes when you lay out a trap, you just don't know who you're going to catch. And that's the nature of a trap. But Daniel still prayed to God and to God alone. Not only that, he didn't hide his prayers. Not really. I mean, first of all, you would think that Daniel could get through this. It's 30 days. You can do almost anything for 30 days, right? You can make it work for 30 days. Daniel could have gone up to his room to pray and faced Jerusalem and shut the windows. It's just 30 days. You can do this. But there was something in Daniel that wouldn't do it. His conviction was, I'm just going to go up and I'm going to pray to God and I'm going to desperately plead my case before God. And I'm going to leave my windows open because my witness, well, I don't even know if he was thinking about his witness. He just wanted to leave his windows open and prayed to God. His convictions wouldn't let him do anything else, wouldn't let him hide. There are a lot of places around the world where Christians don't meet publicly. There's a lot of places where there's persecution, and so they go into a secret place to meet. And they live out their faith in private, not in public. There's a lot of places like that. And who can blame people? I mean, there's some wisdom in hiding your faith away sometimes. But Daniel's convictions would not allow him to hide his faith away. And the king is caught in the same trap. The king doesn't want Daniel to be killed. This is his favorite advisor. And the king probably went to him and said, just pray to me and it'll all be good. But Daniel's like, I can't do it. Can't do it. And so finally, the story moves on just a little bit further. And Darius is stuck. There's a law and it can't be repealed. And so he takes Daniel and he has him thrown into the lion's den. Now we're in 6 verse 16. The king said to Daniel, may your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you. A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the rings of his nobles, so that Daniel's situation might not be changed. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night without eating and without any entertainment being brought to him. He could not sleep. At the first light of dawn, the king got up and hurried to the lion's den. When he came near the den, he called to Daniel in an anguished voice. Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions? Daniel answered, may the king live forever. My God has sent his angel and shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me because I was found innocent in his sight, nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty. So God rescues Daniel. These men had laid a trap for Daniel, and they caught not only Daniel, but they caught the king in the trap. Well, the king is furious. And he takes these men who had laid the trap, and he has them thrown into the lion's den instead of Daniel. And not only them, he has their family, their wives, and all of their children thrown into the lion's den as well. I mean, it's a horrific situation. But the reality is, when we do evil, our family pays a price every time. I mean, it's just true. When you cross the line and you plot evil against somebody, your family will pay a price. And in this case, they died. They paid the price with their life. So, sometimes when you do good, your family pays a price also. Isn't that true? Will God protect you? Yes, sometimes He will. He protected Daniel in this situation. But the thing to note here is that Daniel refused to worship any other god. He just refused to do it. First commandment, you will have no other gods before me. We, as Christ followers living in 2021, we do not have permission to bow our knee to any other god ever. You just don't have that permission. We're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to pray to another human or another god. And so Daniel, his convictions, he just could not and would not do that. And we, as Christ followers, cannot do that either. Trap number 2, different time, different place. The chief priests and the Pharisees are trying to trap Jesus. And they set a trap for him. We're in Mark chapter 12, verse 13. Later, they sent some of the Pharisees and the Herodians to Jesus to catch him in his words. They came to him and said, "Teacher, we know that you are a man of integrity. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are, but you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? Should we pay or shouldn't we?" But Jesus knew their hypocrisy. "Why are you trying to trap me?" he asked. "Bring me a denarius and let me look at it." They brought him the coin, and he asked them, "Whose image is this? And whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then Jesus said to them, "Give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, but to God what is God's." And they were amazed at him. Of course, for the Pharisees, the implications, they're profound. This is like a mic drop moment. They can't believe his answer. And I've explained this a time or two, that the answer, of course, the image on a coin is the image of Caesar. So pay your taxes to Caesar. That's his. That belongs to him. But give to God what is made in the image of God. And what's made in the image of God? We are. Give to God your life, because that belongs to God. And so they are blown away by this answer. So, secondary question real quick. Are you supposed to pay your taxes? Yes. But what if the government uses that tax money and does things that you don't agree with? Should you still pay your taxes? According to Jesus, yeah. I mean, let God sort that piece out. But pay your tax, because that belongs to Caesar. But give God your life. Now, I want us to try to look at the question that I think might be behind this question, because I suspect that the question is this: should we obey all of these rules that we've been tossed at us endlessly during this whole pandemic? What's the line? Where do those rules come to an end? And we live in our context, we're living out this faith, and our context is 2021 in the United States of America. And in the United States, we have a constitution. And in the United States, we have a legal system. And so that's our context. How are we supposed to live out our faith here in this place today? Reality is, I'm not a rule keeper. I'm just not. I'm not wired to be a rule keeper. Are you? Someone said no. Someone said yes. I mean, some of you, you're rule keepers, right? And some of you, I have seen you drive. You're not rule keepers. You're not. I've seen where you park your cars. You think I don't see you? I see you. Right? I mean, some of us are wired to be rule keepers. Others are like, yeah, that rule doesn't make sense. And so we just break them all. But I'm not really wired to be a rule keeper, but at the same time, there's something else going on here. So Paul, we've looked at this passage a couple of times. Paul writes in Romans chapter 13, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, For there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted. And those who do so bring judgment upon themselves. Stop there for a second. What about Hitler? Right? What about Hitler? I mean, did God put Hitler in office? Well, he sure allowed him to be in office. Should you rebel against Hitler? Well, Dietrich Bonhoeffer thought so. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a pastor and a theologian, and he was in on a plot to assassinate Hitler. And just before Hitler was killed, Dietrich Bonhoeffer was executed. But his line in the sand was, Hitler, I cannot. My conscience won't allow me to follow Hitler and his wickedness. And so he followed his conscience because he answered to a higher authority. Now, as Christ's followers, we have to follow our conscience, but to do that, we have to listen to the Spirit of God. And so we have to, honestly, it's not as easy as check this, check that. It's not as easy as black and white. It's listening deeply to what the Spirit of God is telling us and following that. The last verse in that little passage, verse 5 says, therefore it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience. So if you're speeding, you might get a speeding ticket. You got to just deal with that, right? But then there comes matters of conscience. And should I follow or should I step back and not follow? And I think it's a hard question. We at Blue Mountain Community Church, we have strived so hard during this whole pandemic thing to obey the rules that have been handed to us. We really tried. Sometimes successfully, sometimes not as successfully. But the rules that have been handed to us, how do you navigate this time? Because we want to be a good witness in our community, and we don't want to be the latest outbreak kind of a place where there's some kind of disease outbreak. However, there's a line. There's a line. And where is that line? And every pastor I've talked to, whether they're locally here in town or all around the region, and I've talked to many of them, they all have identified, here's our line, we have a line, and it's right here. And some of the lines, some of them are over here, and some of them are way back here. But every one of them I've talked to said, here's our line. Because they've had to identify their line. Where is their line? And so for us, I mean, I have to be a little bit careful because, this is going out online, right? I have to be careful what I say because who knows who might be like, oh, yeah, we got this guy. But there's some edicts that come down from the throne, like when you come into the building, we are supposed to check your vaccination card and seat you accordingly. We have a constitution. And we believe that's an unconstitutional thing to ask. Are we willing to fight that in court? Yeah, we are. But that's one of the lines. I mean, there's lines. There's lots of lines. You have to make these decisions based upon your convictions and your conscience. And you have to look deeply inside and seek the Spirit of God and ask what He would have you do in all of these situations. Third trap. The third trap is to fight over every issue as if it's the most important thing. The third trap is you will fight over every issue because this is it. This issue is it. The reality is, not every issue is it. Choose your battles. We don't have to fight as if this is the most important battle. There are some battles that are best to just step away and say, yeah, that one's not worth fighting. Choose your battle. Choose your battle carefully. We are so quick to outrage in our culture right now. I mean, everything is an outrage. It's not true. Not everything is an outrage. But our fuses are so short. I even find my own fuse so short anymore. And I don't know where that came from. Leslie and I, when we were early in marriage, we kind of learned this system. Like if I said something that offended her or hurt her in some way, I would ask, was that a pebble or a boulder? You know, you drop a pebble in the pond and it has a little ripple effect, and you drop a boulder and it goes, was that a pebble or a boulder? A rock or a boulder? If it's a boulder, then I have to deal with it. If it's a pebble, then I can get away with it. Well, Steve Ranella has a podcast called Meat Eater. It's a hunting podcast, and he has a show on Netflix, same title, Meat Eater. But he gave some of the best marriage advice I've ever heard in my entire life. He said with his wife, he said, if we're arguing over something, I ask her, scale of 1 to 10, what is this to you? We're arguing over what color we're going to paint the bathroom. I want to paint it this color, and she wants to paint it that color. So I ask her, what is it to you? If she says it's an 8 to me, it's so important, this is an 8. And if he's like, yeah, it's a 2 to me, then they choose not to even fight over it. If it's a 2 to me and it's an 8 to you, paint the bathroom whatever color you want. And that is great advice for life, the way we move forward in life. To the hill now. 3 traps and 1 hill. To the hill. What hill are you willing to die on? What hill are you willing to die on? Because you get to choose your battle. And you don't have to choose every battle to fight. Some battles aren't worth the blood. They're just not. We just celebrated Memorial Day, where we have looked last Sunday at the lives of people who sacrificed their lives in service of this nation. But the reality is, some of those lives, some of the blood that was spilled for a field that doesn't matter to anybody. And sometimes you don't get to choose where you meet the enemy, right? And the battle is on this field or in this rice paddy. And I'm not trying to say that one war is more worthy than another. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that there are times that field was not worth the blood that it cost. Sometimes. But you and I, we get to choose the battles we fight. We get to choose. So the question for you, for me, is this. What hill are you willing to die on? Bonhoeffer said, I'm willing to die to end the evil of Hitler. Daniel said, I am willing to die because I will not worship any other god. But Jesus said, I'm not willing to die over money. He was willing to die over a lot of things, but he wasn't willing to die over money. Wasn't a battle worth fighting. What hill are you willing to die on? And as you choose your fight, remember this. You, as a Christ follower, you are a witness of who he is. And everywhere you go, you represent him. Choose your battle wisely. Apostle Peter wrote these words, and maybe these words, as I close, maybe these words speak most profoundly into this question. He says, dear friends, I urge you as foreigners and exiles to abstain from sinful desires which wage war against your soul. Live such good lives among the pagans that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits. Submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor as the supreme authority or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong and commend those who do right. For it is God's will that by doing good you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish people. Live as free people, but do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil. Live as God's slaves. Show proper respect to everyone. Love the family of believers. Fear God. Honor the emperor. Not easy, is it? How do we choose our battles? How do we know when to submit and when to defy? We know because we follow Jesus Christ, and you listen for his gentle whisper, and you choose your battle. Will you pray with me? Lord, help us to know your whisper better. We wish it was so easy, Lord. We wish it was all black and white. Help us to choose our battles well. But Lord, we know that you placed us here in this time, in this place, for such a time as this. And Lord, you send us as your ambassadors into this moment of time. We are your representatives today. Help us to live up to that. We want so much to represent you well. We pray in the name of Christ. Amen.
Lord, teach me how to listen. I want to know your voice. And show me how to wade through living in the natural and rise above the noise. Lord, teach me how your heart beats. Or tether it to mine. The surgery is worth it. Get below the surface and open up my eyes. I wanna see heaven, so let your kingdom come. I wanna see heaven, so let your kingdom come. If faith can wake the dead man, and hope can split the sea, then help me to remember the kingdom of heaven is living in me. Yes, God. Oh, in death it was no match for the resurrected King. Then help me to remember that heaven is alive and it's living in me. I want to see, oh, I want to see heaven. So let your kingdom come. Lord, I want to see heaven. So let your kingdom come, Lord. Yes, so right here. I want to see heaven. So let your kingdom come around. I want to see heaven. So let your kingdom come. Lord, teach me how to listen. 'Cause I want to know your voice. And show me how to wade through living in the natural and rise above the noise. Lord, teach me how your heart beats. And tether it to mine. The surgery is worth it. Get below the surface and open up my eyes.
Blue Mountain Community Church is your home church. We invite you to continue to worship God through the giving of an offering. You can use our offering boxes in the back of the room. You can use an online feature, giving feature on our website, or our church app, or you could send a check to 928-STURM. Also, some have asked, what if we want to give to Prescott? How can we do that? And the answer to that's pretty easy. Give to Blue Mountain. because we're one church with two locations, two names, one church, one board, one staff. And so that's the easiest way to do that. So would you receive this blessing as we go? May you, Christ follower, hear the whisper of the Spirit of God. May you choose your battles wisely. And may you remember you represent the Son of the living God, Jesus Christ, the only hope this world has ever known. Amen.